Welcome to Wild, Women in Lending Determined to Make an Impact. I'm your host, Robyn LaVassaur. They say our biggest fear isn't being inadequate, it's being powerful beyond measure. In this podcast, I will share how to break through imaginary ceilings, lean into success, discovering your purpose, and understanding how to create the business and life of your dreams. From failures to triumphs and all the tactics in between, let's jump into the wild arena together. Welcome back to Wild. This is Robyn LaVassaur, and we are going to cover something that is so important. In fact, it's so important that I call it the most important thing. And it actually has to do with your actual client. And this can be transposed, if you will, between a real estate agent, a referral partner, and a client. But I really want to cover the client portion of it today so that you understand from a borrower's portion. And again, if you're in an outside business, not in loans, I think that there's enough here metaphorically that you can look at it and say, hey, this applies. Somebody said something to me a long time ago, and I've never loved the word sell. You've heard me say that. I've always loved the word serve. But people will essentially, so I'm going to use the word serve, people will tell you how to serve them. People will tell you how they want to be served, what makes them feel like they are served. And I think that one of the things that's amiss sometimes is we think, do unto others, as you would do to yourself, if you will. Well, what if you actually were just so focused on them? So focused on them. Now, you're still going to maintain your control of the transaction. You're still going to be the professional in the deal. But let me walk you through for a minute what most important thing means. And if you will, I would love for you to have like a pen and paper, take some notes. It'll help you. And so put on their MIT. And with every single client and even every single house that they are potentially looking at, there is a true most important thing. And you will always get there if you ask enough questions. So I want to go through the basics with you for a minute. There are 4 things to me that go into the most important thing. Once in a blue moon, there's something outside of those 4 things that becomes potentially the main priority. But very rarely is it not one of these 4 things. So what are the 4 things? 1, interest rate. In no particular order, I should say that out loud, because Lord knows I wouldn't have started with interest rate. Interest rate, house, total monthly payment. And you'll notice that I say the word total, and it's important that we say that to the clients. And then total, cash to close, total. I'm going to go through each one for a minute and really dig into why the most important thing is such a critical piece that is missed so frequently. Why is it missed? Why do we miss the most important thing? Because what we often do is we don't actually follow a structure or take control of a client. I love to use the doctor's office analogy where imagine if you showed up and the client started calling the shots. Hey, I'd like to start with seeing the doctor and then I'll go do my blood pressure later and maybe give you my insurance card. That would never, ever happen, right? Instead, they are going to say, hey, we're going to walk you through our process. Your process should be focused on the client, but controlled by you. How do you do that? Well, you start with really asking them the most important thing. And I actually line this out and I take notes and I review everything with the client. And so when I bring a client in, I will say to them, I'm going to go through literally a section of this pre-approval, if you will, the pre-qualification, the loan analysis. And I'm going to say out loud to them, hey, let's go through the most important thing to you. And I'm going to give you 4 categories. And I'm going to explain each category in detail, and then I'm going to ask you questions. And so again, go through the 4 categories: house, interest rate, total cash to close, total monthly payment. We'll start with rates. One of the key questions that I ask every single client is tell me what you know or have seen thus far when it comes to interest rates. It is such a critical thing. Instead of making assume nothing, confirm everything. Assume nothing. How many crazy narratives do we write about a client and how important an interest rate is, how well they understand it, how much they potentially have, or even more dangerous, we assume they know nothing. We assume they've never looked. We assume they don't have any questions around it. And so when we're assuming things, we're not confirming things. And this MIT is really about confirming things. So when they say, hey, this is what I know about interest rate, I could do a full, probably 3 days of podcasts on role playing this scenario, talking about things. But what I really want you to do is find out what they know first, why something is important to them. If they say, now the natural reaction about interest rate, if people put things in order initially, out of sheer media, word of mouth, default, they generally will put the interest rate and the monthly payment first and second, almost always. With clarification, the goal is to get them to understand while all four things are important, the order of significance is often flipped. And so we're going to go through those pieces. When it comes to interest rate, what's important? Why? Why do you think that? What have you heard, right? What have you looked at? All of those things. And then some education around interest rates. Some of the key things that I always say literally are based on, hey, interest rate's important. It's also something that is 100% out of our control. Meaning they could be 2% higher by the time we leave here, and they can also go lower. Which way do you think they move the fastest? Always confirming with the client, right? When rates move, the very fastest they move is up, not down. Why? Because there's massive protection that financial institutions need to use when the market is going haywire, right? So they almost always react up faster than they react down. What are the typical trends, right? We talk about those, how it impacts them. Do they understand the benefits of interest rates, right? The benefit potentially of even a higher interest rate. Everything from tax deduction, right? There's a lot of different things that can play into it, right? The future of their interest rate, something that can change with a refinance. So there's a lot of education. I allowed them to ask a ton of questions and then weave in knowledge and different things. And then what I tell everybody is, you don't have to remember any of this. That's my job as the professional. My job is to navigate it. But I do want you to have at least enough information that you absolutely understand and feel knowledgeable enough to make a decision. So now that we understand interest rates, we're going to go through total monthly payment. We're going to talk about a lot of things when we talk about a total monthly payment for our client. We're going to talk about what that actually means, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. What are those other things that can be factors? Mortgage insurance, homeowners, flood insurance. There's so many things that can be factors. We're going to cover all of it. When you think about why we would cover so much, maybe when a whole bunch of it doesn't apply, when you are going through truly a professional loan presentation, the client should know that not only they are in great hands with you, those are called brain surgeon closes, right? Where you really show them your value and your knowledge. But on the flip side, they should also know that you are thinking about things that they aren't thinking about for themselves because they don't even know any better. The worst thing that you can do in taking care of somebody is talk about something that's so far over their head that they've never experienced before. And then you say, do you have any questions? They wouldn't even know what to ask. And we have to understand that. Again, never assume, oh, they said they didn't have any questions. Not having questions and having an understanding are two very different things. And you want to be so clear on the whys behind it. So when we talk about that total monthly payment, I always look at what they're currently paying for housing expense. When you think about what they're currently paying relative to what they're going to be paying potentially, you'll know the level of panic potentially, right? If there is a massive gap from what they're used to paying to what they're paying now. All sorts of things on a loan. Again, like I could do a full podcast just on these things alone. How much debt do they have? How do they manage their savings and their debt? There's so many factors that go into why we would advise one way or another around a monthly payment. And one of the things that I always tell a client is there are two different things here. One, what the max approval per the program guidelines, i.e. the computer, will allow. And then there's you. There's your decision around a total monthly payment and what you are technically comfortable with. Both matter. One of the other things that I say is insurance can literally come in higher or lower depending on the property. We talk about the property taxes on every single home and the areas in which they are fixated. If taxes would be potentially higher typically in this area or lower, why, right? All the whys behind it. And then what I always tell them is as I'm going through total monthly payment, I always tell them I will never trivialize even $1 of savings for you. I would never trivialize even $1 of savings for you. People have to know that you're not only helping them get into debt, right? You want to help them get out of debt, but that you're also concerned, that you are on their side, and that you are not. Have you ever sat down to qualify for a car? And I think this is where the car industry got a very bad rap. And they say things like, it's only $15 more. What that's doing is assuming that $15 to you is trivial. Don't ever trivialize someone else's money, ever. Don't ever trivialize someone else's budget or their feelings. It causes them to think they should work with somebody else. If they know that you care, that you're protective of it, that you're aware of it, that's helpful. So lots of things that we could go over under total monthly payment. We're going to educate. We're going to ask the whys. We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to go through essentially a monthly budget while we're going through the total monthly payment, which will help us establish, hey, what is your debt load? How did that come about? How did you save? So let's go to number 3, which would be total cash out of pocket. Total cash out of pocket. When you think about total cash out of pocket, do the clients really understand? Were you willing to talk to them about earnest money? Did you talk to them about home inspections? Did you talk to them about the appraisal, the hard costs? To even make an offer on a home and get to a place where you potentially are getting out of the contract, it's going to upfront cost you at least a few $100s, with some of it being non-refundable, right? And then in addition to that, you have earnest money and those types of things. When you can educate clients on things that they know that you're being so thorough in the steps, right? It always cracks me up when a surgeon explains to you, if you've ever had surgery before, they're like, hey, we're going to put you to sleep. This is what that looks like. You're going to come into a room. There's going to be music. We're going to put a mask on you or give you, right? In this IV, we're going to put something there. There's going to be an anesthesiologist. After that, the doctor comes in. They're cutting you here. You're going to wake up in a different room. Now, the truth is, we don't remember or know any of it. We're delirious, and they could have told us nothing. Hey, I'm going to go in there and get taken care of what you need taken care of. How comfortable would you be? And I think one of the misses right now in lending, you guys, is that we are literally, in probably a lot of industry, not just lending, but we are literally skipping so many steps because of how fast and easy we want things. And I'm guilty of that, right? Amazon has spoiled us all rotten. Our iPhones are magic. If you're an Android user, yes, you probably think that's magic as well, right? Like there is things at our fingertip that move so fast, and our patience, unfortunately, gets trained to be shorter, to be faster. And so we like to skip all these steps with a client. They don't feel heard. Then they get uneasy. And all of a sudden, they start to look around for more knowledge or commoditization, which is cheaper price, cheaper price, cheaper price. Who can give it to me cheaper? Because I don't understand any other value in all of this. I didn't feel heard, so I'm only looking for the lowest rate, the lowest payment, right? That's all I'm looking for, the lowest cash out of pocket. So when you go to cash out of pocket total, you're always going to cover everything. The other thing that you're going to work on with total cash to close is, where did that money come from? Where did it come from? Was it a gift? Was it their own money? Are they borrowing it? Did they save it? If they saved it, how long and at what amount per month were they able to set aside? And are they still budgeting for that money? Because what's a home purchase? It's forced savings. Every month your mortgage goes down, and that's savings for you, right? Do they understand all of those things? It matters that we talk through them as the professional. The very last piece, house. Oh, what an interesting piece. This is one that I see countless people skip. I literally will say, I know you've probably been looking already. You're probably on the Zillow app, the Trulia app. Tell me what you've seen so far that catches your eye. I go through wants and needs and the difference between the two. If somebody says to me, hey, I want to buy a house that's on 2 acres with a shop, and we want 2 sinks in the master bathroom and a walk-in closet, and they qualify in our area for $300,000 total and have $20,000 to work with, it's not possible. So I then have to know, oh, your expectations are here. I have to get them back to here. Otherwise, we're not good with our referral partners. We're not good with those clients. If we immediately, excitedly tell them, you're pre-approved for $300,000, but they've been looking at $550 in their mind, you all of a sudden have to bridge a gap. And do you know how much harder it is to undo versus build? It's so hard to undo people's expectations. It's so much easier to know where they're at and then build yours from there, right? Like know which direction you need to go. Am I going up? Am I going down, right? What do I need to do to neutralize where they are at in their mind? How do I get there? How do I bridge that gap? If you just said, congratulations, you're pre-approved, good luck on finding that house, you think about that from a referral partner standpoint. Oh, they're out showing 1 million homes potentially, or zero homes because it doesn't exist. And the client thinks their agent stinks, all because their lender wasn't willing to bridge a gap, right? Wasn't willing to go through the most important thing. And so where does the value go in the ranking? Once we've gone through everything, I've educated them, I'll literally say, okay, now with every house that you look at, this is specifically for a purchase, different on an investment property than a primary residence, right? With every single house, I'm going to go back over the most important thing. Now, this takes roughly 5 minutes once you've done the baseline at the initial consult. After that, you're literally going to have a conversation with them. Hey, I see you love a house on 123 Main Street. Let's go back through most important thing on this house. Why do we go back through it? Here's what I will tell you. Most people don't. Most people don't because they think the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes means slap a pre-approval letter out there, slap a payment out there, slap an interest rate out there, and not have further conversation is the job. That's not the job. The job is, hey, now we have a piece to the puzzle that becomes very real, and I hold the other pieces. I need to reaffirm what's the priority. Maybe on this specific house, there's 5 other offers. Maybe their cash to close is going to be challenged at the highest level and we're at a cap and we really have to maneuver things around that cash to close to make it work. Maybe interest rate makes all the difference in the world on this one. There are so many things. I talk about, hey, this house, oh, it's everything you wanted except for it's not been updated in 30 years. You were going to put down 20%. You're getting the house for less. Interest rates improved a little bit. You love your monthly payment. Maybe we should put down less money. Maybe we should only put down 10% so that you can do a bunch of the work that house needs up front with your cash and not go into future debt. But if you've never talked to them initially, if you don't know the 4 categories and a slight structure of importance, if you haven't educated them on the importance, finding a house you love and getting an accepted offer could come at the risk of you chasing the very lowest fees and the very lowest interest rate. But if you never say that to them, they don't know how to prioritize the most important thing. If you don't help them strategize their money, strategize their future, strategize the investment they're about to make in the biggest purchase of their life, they don't understand how to do it themselves, except for what the rest of the world tells them who's not in that field. When I was pregnant, everybody and their mother wanted to share with me all their stories that pertain specifically to them. There were factors in their life, in their body, in their partner that caused things in their pregnancy. It's not fair to blanket those over every pregnant woman on the planet. It is no different with a home loan, you guys. When people want to blanket things, they don't know any better. And then when the professional says, let me make it fast, easy, barely know exactly what you want, other than a pre-approval letter, I'll give you that. I'll give you that immediately, but I'm not going to ask any further questions. That's, you guys, when we become a commodity. And so when you think about most important thing, again, I could go in every direction on this, but I'm going to keep it short so that you just have an understanding. I want you to work so hard on sitting down with a client on Zoom, in person, and very worst case on the phone. And I want you to ask those questions and why it's important, why it's important, why it's important. Get better and better and better at every section. And then with every single home that they even remotely contemplate, I want you to go back over it, specific to the numbers on that house, and make sure that they know the order of their choosing, the why behind it, why it's important to their strategy, what are the benefits, so that they know, hey, I not only have someone who's going to get my home loan closed, I have someone who's in my financial corner helping me strategize, again, the biggest investment of my life, and they care enough to make it tailored to me and me alone. Do the work, you guys, and I promise you will love the result. Don't assume anything. Confirm for sure, undoubtedly, exactly what your clients want, and go big from there. We'll see you soon.